Jean-Jacques Rousseau has gone down in history as one of the most influential educators of the Enlightenment period. As a thinker and educator, Rousseau shared his theories of psychology, philosophy, and music to those who were willing to listen, writing novels and essays which expanded on his philosophies. First gaining recognition on his thesis on how mankind is good by nature but is corrupted by society, Rousseau took advantage and continued to make an impact on society by writing his second work, The Discourse on the Origin of Inequality. As he continued to publish his major works, it further solidified his place as a significant intellectual figure. Though Rousseau's efforts to expand on political, sociological, and educational thought, his brilliance has influenced society throughout time and continues to be a significant part of modern-day development. Jean-Jacques Rousseau was born in the city-state of Geneva on June 28, 1712. Because his mother died only 9 days after Rousseau's birth, he was raised by his father until the age of 10. At 10 years old, Rousseau was sent away to live for 2 years under the care of a pastor. Rousseau spent many years wandering from place to place, finding work anywhere he could. During those years, he began to develop an interest in music. In 1742, Rousseau went to Paris to become a musician and composer. Although he began Paris with a rough start, being rejected by the Academy of Science for his newly devised form of musical notation, there is when he had first contact with major figures of the Enlightenment period. In 1749, Rousseau entered an essay competition organized by the Academy of Dijon, which was a turning point in his career. Winning first place on his thesis, it dealt with his views on humankind and how we are good by nature but corrupted by society. Rousseau's thesis, or first discourse, made Rousseau famous and provoked a series of responses to which he in turn replied. As Rousseau became a well-known and respected figure, he took the opportunity to work on his music once again, composing 2 operas that became quite a success. Rousseau also began to write his second discourse, developing his theories on human social development and moral psychology. In 1756, after the publication of his second discourse, he and his family moved from Paris, and during that time is when Rousseau wrote some of his most important works. In 1761, he published a novel, Julie or the New Halos, which was one of the best-selling novels of his time. In 1762, only 1 year later, he published 2 major philosophical treatises, his definitive work on political philosophy, The Social Contract, and a book detailing his views on education, Emily. Publishing work that was brilliant yet highly controversial, Rousseau was forced to flee, eventually settling in England, where he spent his last days writing his autobiography Confessions, up until his death in 1778. Rousseau made huge contributions to education through his study of moral psychology and human social development. By publishing countless major works such as essays, novels, and even his autobiography, he was able to share with the world his theories that would forever change the face of education. At the start of his career, Rousseau published his first work, which some would say was his most important contribution to education. When asked to write an essay for a competition dealing with the theme of whether the development of the arts and sciences had improved or corrupted public morals, Rousseau gained fame and notoriety for his contrary response. He believed that humankind is good by nature, but that through social development, including the arts and sciences, humankind would become corrupt. Rousseau's first discourse would later be known as his most famous, as that was the essay that introduced themes that he would develop further in his later work. As Rousseau went on to write his second and more accomplished major work, he expanded more fully on his theories. Dealing with morality and social development, Rousseau concluded that as we are born with morality and a natural goodness, society can take over and corrupt us, unless we make the effort to recognize our morality through our conscience. Once we have achieved consciousness of ourselves as social beings, we can then learn to reason and gain back our morality. Explaining his ideas of education in his novel, Emily, Rousseau believed that education was not about learning a particular techniques or learning information and concepts, but it was about developing the student's character and moral sense. By doing so, one can remain virtuous even in such a corrupt society. In an excerpt from his book on education, Emily, Rousseau writes, "Now each of these factors in education is wholly beyond our control. Things are only partly in our power. The education of men is the only one controlled by us. And even here our power is largely illusory, for who can hope to direct every word and deed of all with whom the child has to do? Viewed as an art, the success of education is almost impossible, since the essential conditions of success are beyond our control. Our efforts may bring us within the sight of the goal, but fortune must favor us if we are to reach it." What is this goal? As we have just shown, it is the goal of nature. Since all three modes of education must work together, the two that we can control must follow the lead of that which is beyond our control. In other words, through development, it is crucial for a student to focus on their environment. By doing so, they are able to recognize their growth and what needs to be altered in their environment, so they avoid being altered by a flawed society. In order to achieve this, education should be individualized, allowing the student to make their own decisions and isolating students to the domineering will of others. All in all, through Rousseau's many contributions towards education, his most essential idea was that education should be carried out as far as possible, so that it is in harmony with the development of the child's natural capacities by a process of self-discovery. In today's society, although Rousseau's theories of education are not part of the practice for school systems, his theories continue to thrive through teachers and their desired form of teaching methods. As Rousseau believed that students should be able to make their own decisions through critical thinking while being aided by a tutor, there are teachers who have applied such methods to their own form of teaching, going beyond the textbooks by having their students analyze deep questions and learn how to conquer the world through their decision-making while continuing to hold true to their good morals. Rousseau's teaching methods would now be classified as postmodernism and perennialism, and I believe that they are theories that should be more emphasized on in modern education. As modern-day society becomes more complicated and life as an adolescent is filled with trials and temptations, I believe that it is incredibly important to emphasize on the teachings that Rousseau so strongly believed in. By applying his methods to our education system, students will go into the real world holding true to the morals they were born with, not allowing society to corrupt them, but instead knowing how to remain strong and wise through reason and proper education. Rousseau's theories on philosophy, psychology, and education were ideas that changed the world during the Enlightenment period. His philosophies were contrary to what society had ever heard before, but they were ideas that would forever go down in history, shaping the world of education and making Rousseau one of the most famous intelligent figures of the 1700s. Thank you.